guys, welcome to the Touchdown Table. I'm Ryan, that's Tyler, that's Jordan. And in this video, we were going to be breaking down the Chicago Bears' upcoming quarterback competition between 2017 first-round pick Mitchell Trubisky and the recently acquired Nick Foles. There's mixed views and mixed opinions on who will be the starter coming into 2020, especially in this unique situation we're in with the coronavirus. But we're going to share our thoughts and preview the competition.
I'm glad you mentioned the virus because you're right. That does have a huge effect on it, especially with Nick Foles coming in during the offseason. Now he has to try and get used to this offense with not as much time, with not as much experience, actually to be with the guys on the practice field. And he's got to do it from Zoom calls whenever it is. Luckily, though, he does know this offense. He's been around it with the Eagles and with the Chiefs in the past. So he does have experience in this type of offense, which is good. But we're going to talk about the battle between these two guys, and it's very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And this battle is very near and dear to our hearts, at least mine and Tyler.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, we are Bears fans, so this relates directly to us. I'm sure we have high opinions. Maybe our opinions are different than what other people think. Maybe they're different than what other people in Chicago think. I know mine is. We'll get to that later. So this one is one that I've been waiting for a while, and I'm excited to be able to share my opinion about this with you guys because I do have high hopes for one of these two guys, and you'll hear it in a second, but I also am realistic too.
Okay, so let's start talking about that. Let's go through the stats of these guys. First, let's go to Mitchell Trubisky in 2019. I think this was last year, yes. All right, so he played in 15 games, 3,138 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. So not very impressive. One of the worst quarterbacks from last year that started. That's why they brought in Nick Foles, who didn't have a great year with the Jacksonville Jaguars last year either. Played in 4 games, 736 yards only, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So neither of them are impressive, but we can talk about why that is later on in this video.
Well, let's just state the obvious here. Let's go to Nick Foles' spectrum of it. Let's go to the Super Bowl winning team that Nick Foles led against the Patriots. This is what all the hype is from for Nick Foles. It's all around that one Super Bowl, the playoffs, I guess you can say. It wasn't just the Super Bowl. It's all about that playoffs and how he got them all the way to the end and how the underdogs eventually won it in the end. That's the hype behind Nick Foles. But throughout his career, I mean, when he started, he was okay, but he was never really.
He was only good with the Eagles.
And you can still make the argument that he wasn't he wasn't great with the Eagles. He was sustainable. Yes, I know he won a Super Bowl MVP and he won them a Super Bowl, but he was never completely a great quarterback. He didn't play many full seasons, especially towards this end of his career. He hasn't played many full seasons. In fact, the most games he's played in a full season in the past 4 years is 5 games, and that was with the Eagles last year or 2 years ago. So this guy is someone that really has never been phenomenal in his career, but it's just the highlights with the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles, which makes him such a high commodity. And then last year with the Jaguars, he didn't do too well. We'll talk about that in a second if you want to take that up.
Yeah, and to be fair, before we do talk more about that, Trubisky, although with less of a sample size, there hasn't been much to be impressed with either, other than that one playoff appearance where he had a pretty good game. But let's talk about Nick Foles in Jacksonville last year, as Jordan was saying. Obviously, he got hurt early on in the season. That first game, he seemed to be playing pretty well, and then got hurt. After he came back, he didn't play very much. It was mainly Gardner Minshew who played the rest of that year. The odds were kind of stacked against Nick Foles. The stats showed that. It was not impressive at all on that side of it, but I cannot completely blame that on Nick Foles. But like Jordan said, it's a little fishy to think, well, he's only good with one team, and that team has not been the Chicago Bears. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe that could change, though.
And you left something out, too, talking about with the Jaguars. You didn't really talk about how when Nick Foles was back, he came back and played. He didn't play well. Gardner Minshew had to come back in.
Well, he's coming right off an injury, too. So
but still, they gave him time. Gardner Minshew was playing all right. They waited it out. They were expecting him to come in and play great. They were hoping to get him as a bridge quarterback, maybe try to sign him on a prove a deal. He didn't prove it with the Jaguars. That's why he's not there anymore. That's why he was able to leave the Jaguars. I understand the Bears needed the quarterback. I'm happy that they got another quarterback to have competition. So, Ryan, go ahead and say what you can say.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that the move for the Bears acquiring Nick Foles, I think it was great for them because it's a low risk move. You gave up a 4th-round pick for this guy. You didn't give up a king's ransom like you gave up to move up to select Trubisky back in 2017. Because if it goes well, you get a great guy, a guy who's performed well in the clutch. You get a good leader, a good quarterback guy. He can make every throw you need him to do. He's got that experience. I think he's 31 years old, if I remember correctly, something around there, or maybe he's a little younger. I don't know. But, he has a lot more experience. You kind of bring a different presence into that locker room. And you only gave up a 4th-round pick for him. But then again, maybe it doesn't pan out. He doesn't quite work well in the system. I doubt that happened. But if it does, hey, you only gave up a 4th-round pick for him. It's not the end of the world. But I love the fit. I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but he's going to be reunited with John DeFilippo, who he was with previously. So I think that's a good thing. Because when you talk about the system fit, especially, it will be somewhat of a similar system. I think he's the quarterbacks coach for the Bears now, right? That's his title, right? That's
John DeFilippo has been he's showed a really good track record of being good as a QB coach, especially with his time with Nick Foles at that point. So yeah, you're right, and I think Nagy especially brought him in because Nagy feels like Nick Foles fits into his offense better. But the problem is Ryan Pace is going to probably be pushing for Mitchell Trubisky because he still believes in him, and so do I. And here's where I want to talk about with Mitchell Trubisky.
You were just talking about Nagy, and you might have said it earlier, but I just wanted to mention how they worked together in Kansas City for a year.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
I think I briefly mentioned that, but I want to talk about something now that I feel very strongly about, and it's the fact that Mitchell Trubisky was not set up to succeed last year in Chicago. It starts with Matt Nagy, who we were just talking about. We saw the play calling. If you're from here, everyone knows the play calling was not what it should have been for this Bears team. Plus, Nagy was trying to enforce his offense on Trubisky, and it really did not show the way he expected to. Trubisky is good like what we saw in that Cowboys game, where he's able to get out of the pocket, throw on the run, all of that stuff. That's one. Number two, the offensive line was one of the worst in the league. Look at the stats, they show it. Watch the games, they show it. It's the same group as before, but for some reason they just weren't as good. What goes along with that is the run game. Because the offensive line is not good, no matter how good David Montgomery is, if there's no hole for him to run through, what is he supposed to do?
And by the way, he might be really good next year, so watch out for him.
You're right. So if there's no run game, they're going to be ready for the pass game because the run game is not doing anything. Number 4, the wide receivers, although there is a good wide receiver core, they dropped a lot of passes last year. I think it was the most in the NFL. No one's talking about that either. I will say, though, Trubisky had some bad throws, some bad games, and he just gets looked upon for that and not the whole situation going around him. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And for those reasons and just kind of the hope that I have for Mitchell Trubisky, I hope that he is a quarterback of the future. And I'm not just hoping, I think that he will be the quarterback of the future for the Bears. Now, that is a very not liked opinion around sports right now, around football right now. Most people are just coming to the general consensus that Nick Foles is going to be the guy. I know Ryan's included in that group of people. Most people are just saying, Nick Foles is going to come. Everyone's naming Trubisky for all the things he's done. They're saying he's going to suck. There's always memes about how he can't make a throw. But look, this is a guy that throughout his whole career, he has been good under pressure. I think that is the best situation for him. He plays best under pressure. The Bears last year, they didn't start off good. Why? Because there was not that much pressure because there was still 2 or 3 quarters left to play a football, so they didn't have to get a fast start. But when Trubisky is down, he's able to lead his team down the field. Look back to 2 years ago in the playoffs against the Eagles. Tariq Cohen, I believe it was, had the good return. Then Trubisky put them in field goal range. Then obviously the Cody Parkey thing happened. We don't need to talk about that anymore. But in troubling situation, that's only one example that I thought of. But Trubisky is good under pressure, in my opinion. So I think now with the pressure of Nick Foles coming there, that's why I love it so much. If Nick Foles is the guy, if whoever's playing better for the Bears in your system, please put them in there. I want this team to succeed. I really don't care if it's Trubisky or Foles, whatever quarterback is going to make this team better, whatever quarterback's going to lead us to the playoffs, or a Super Bowl, I want to see them in. But I think it's going to be Trubisky. I think that under the pressure of Nick Foles being there, he's going to have to play better. I think that they lifted up his 5th-year option, so now he doesn't have that safety valve a little bit. He kind of has to play his best football. This is a prove-it year for him. if he does not do good this year, his career might be going very, very far downhill because he's got memes so much. Teams might not want him. He probably wouldn't be a starting quarterback. This is a step-up year for Mitchell Trubisky, and I think he's going to do it.
Big statement.
Yeah.
Man. You're good.
That was pretty bold, but it could happen.
All right, yeah, and I'm kind of with Jordan a little bit on that. For the fact that Trubisky, like I said, he was set up to fail last year. There's still hope. Everyone's counting Trubisky out, saying, "Oh, he sucks, he's garbage." Which, yes, at times there was times where we were saying
Look,
that.
there's
in our
many
living
times
room
where he's
watching the
throwing
game.
a check down and he misses it. It really annoys me.
Yeah,
it really does.
There's some bad plays, but once again, lots of room for improvement, and we've seen him. A lot of film of him being able to make those throws that he misses. That being said, though, we know that there's an open competition for the starting job in Week 1. I'm not sure who that's going to be, but if I was the head coach / GM, I would lean towards Nick Foles. If it was close, obviously whoever's playing better, if it's far away one way or the other, put them in. But if it's really close, I would go Nick Foles because if he's not playing well, at least then you have fans being optimistic about Trubisky. If Trubisky starts Week 1 and he makes a bad pass, whether fans are there or not, you might hear boos from the stadium, or people are going to be calling for his head right away and saying, "Put in Nick Foles, put in Nick Foles. Trubisky is trash." Right away.
Calling for his head?
It's metaphorical, but anyways,
Jeez.
yeah, I just feel like they have to figure this whole thing out before and be ready to plan for the fan reaction in Chicago because it's a big football city here, and that's going to have a huge effect on how the mindset of these quarterbacks goes. So it's really a mind game.
I have 2 points to mention with that as well. First of all, with the coronavirus right now, especially in the state of Illinois, things are not being lifted as fast as other states are. So I know teams are able to go to their facilities, and they can't practice yet, I think, but they can have a few people in there, maybe do some film study. Actually, I don't think the players are allowed to go. I don't remember the full rules. I read through them. I just forgot them, but they are opening up facilities again soon. I don't remember the date. Maybe it's already happened. I don't know. But the Bears in Illinois might be a bit lagging in that category of being able to come together and kind of learn together. And Foles and Trubisky, that battle might have to be delayed. They might not have much time to evaluate it. That's point number one. And then another more positive point for the Bears is that they did say this year that they are going to put their starters in the preseason. Yes. Thank the Lord for that one, because in Chicago we were all very frustrated about that when the season started because they just did not look like they were ready against the Packers team Week 1 on that Thursday night to start off the season. It was awful for all of us to watch. I think my eyes were bleeding. So now we get to see them play in the preseason, see that Foles and Trubisky play in the preseason in live action.
To add on to what you're saying, usually you get to the preseason, you're like, yeah, we have football. Then you watch the first game and you're like, oh, this is not what I wanted. But in Chicago, I think everyone's going to be intrigued because that's when we're going to see who's going to win the starting job. I think it's those 4 preseason games that's really going to decipher it. In-game action, Trubisky and Foles are both going to get time if they're both healthy, which I would assume they are, hopefully. But it's going to be very intriguing, all 4 of those games. And I don't think there's going to be a final decision till the last moment, which is really just going to make this so fun to watch as a Bears fan. Hopefully we get it right here and the Bears can be good, but we're going to have to find that out.
Yeah, and one quick thing that I wanted to say, here's what my best guess at how it's going to go. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now with the whole virus thing, especially here, as Jordan mentioned. But I think you got to look way back to when they first drafted Trubisky in 2017. They also got Mike Glennon. And, while that didn't pan out, they had the veteran guy. They gave him the keys to the starting job first. I think he started, 4 games? It didn't go well, and then they turned to Trubisky. And like you said, the fans were excited. They were hyped up. Yeah. I don't know why I remember this, but I think he won his first start. I think it was like a Monday night game against the Vikings. I could be making that up, and that just sounds right.
No, that's right. That's where Tyler was so nervous for him.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I have a video of his first plays in the NFL and his first completion. Just for the record, I do have that on my phone. Just want to say that.
Okay. Yeah, and what I think is going to happen, I think it's going to be kind of similar to how it was back in 2017, because I think they're going to give the benefit of the doubt out to the veteran. Say, okay, Nick Foles, we brought you in here for a reason. You're a guy that we think is going to fit well with our coaching staff, with our system. Because there's some chatter that maybe Matt Nagy and Trubisky aren't vibing as much as they should be, or that there's discrepancies in the play calling, and that it's not a good fit. There's a reason they got Nick Foles. They wanted that veteran influence. They wanted a guy who they think works well in their system. They wanted him back with John DeFilippo again. So I really like that acquisition. So I think they're going to give Nick Foles the week 1 starting job, but Trubisky will be ready and waiting if it goes south.
I'm completely with you, Ryan. Once again, the mental game in Chicago, if it's close in the preseason like I talked about before, I think Foles is getting that job, and that's to save Trubisky, really, because, like I said, if Trubisky goes in, he's getting scrutinized as soon as he throws him his pass, and I don't think that's good for the rest of the season for him. In order to help Trubisky, I honestly feel like you have to play Nick Foles in week 1, and that sounds weird, but as the season goes on, I think it would only be a matter of time before Foles messed up a little bit and Trubisky got his chance, and I do think he would take advantage of it.
So your strategy is to wait for Foles to suck instead of putting...
If Foles doesn't suck, you keep him in. But if he does, you have a Mitchell Trubisky waiting on the sideline who's energized to go in and prove himself. See what I'm saying there?
Kind of, but I feel like he'd be energized anyways because this is his prove-it year. He has to be energized every single time.
You're right, but it's tough to be energized if he gets in and then gets scrutinized right away. If Foles isn't doing good, then the fans are more optimistic about it.
Yeah.
They say, okay, here comes Trubisky. Nick Foles wasn't doing anything.
I can guarantee you as a Bears fan, even if Foles is sucking, I think this is a real statement. Even when Trubisky steps out in the field, I'm sure there's going to be some groans from Bears fans still because they have bad memories of him. There is so much hatred in Chicago for Trubisky right now. Be. And I like Trubisky. I've talked about it all video. I hope he's a starter. I hope he's a quarterback of the future. I know it's slim, but I have my hope for him. And I know Ryan's kind of against me maybe because his team got Deshaun Watson. But I have hope for Trubisky. And I know there's a lot of hatred around Chicago for him.
There should be some, but not as much as there is.
Yeah, it's just like an all-out Trubisky pitchfork riot fest on him. So.
Yeah, me and Jordan are kind of Trubisky defenders here in Chicago. We're trying to.
It's very rare to see those. Most people think that he needs to go.
Yeah,
I think he's got a really, like you said, this is a prove-it year for him. I mean, if he does get out in the field or whenever he does, because I think it's going to be Foles week 1, so we might have to wait a little bit for something. But with them not picking up his 5th-year option, they're kind of saying, okay, the clock's ticking on this what Trubisky did.
Yeah. So Jordan, do you really think if the Bears start off 1-4 and Trubisky comes out on the field and at halftime that people are going to be upset to see him on the field if we're not doing good?
Well, I think they'd be upset that their team is 1-4. First of all,
you're right. They would, but they would at least
there would definitely be some moments. What if he comes out there and misses a throw? Then you talked about earlier. What if he comes out and misses a throw when they're trying to have the hope? There's just endless options.
Yeah, here. I made this point earlier. Maybe I didn't stress it as much. But if Trubisky comes in after Foles is in, at least it's not, hey, put Nick Foles in. He's got to be better than this. We saw then at least at that point we would see what Nick Foles did and realize, okay, there's a reason Trubisky's on the field. Give him some more slack because what's behind him might not be as good as we thought.
I agree.
So I think with that we can wrap this video up. We did have a good conversation about this, which I enjoy. We got into a little bit of a heated argument about that, but that's what this channel is about. We love to have fun talking about
argument, but yeah, I can go.
We can get worse.
Call Stephen A. Smith on you if you wanted to.
We'll do that another time. Don't worry. We could probably do that off camera. But thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. All those are really appreciated, guys. We would really appreciate if you did that if you made it this far and like this video. Also, comment down below who you think should be the starter for Chicago, because we're really interested to hear what you guys have to say.
I'll be surprised if I see any Trubiskys down there with me, because the general consensus, like I said, is it's going to be Foles. Everyone has that set to their mind, but not me.
I think Foles starts, but Trubisky plays more of the season. That's just me. What do you guys think? We'd love to let you know. Do what I said before, and with that, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.